3. Violence. Again, it's pretty common knowledge that the Wild West was incredibly violent. However, whenever watching Western films, we seem to just switch off and take it for granted. We don't really analyze how brutal the West really was. Shootouts, bank robberies, highly choreographed bar brawls. If we know anything about the frontier, it's that it was one hell of a violent place. Or was it? Although still a violent time period, it turns out the popular image of the Old West as a place where manly men solved their differences by shooting those differences in the face simply isn't true. People were more likely to cooperate than fight. In a harsh and lawless world, it was better to side with your neighbor for mutual benefit than to start shooting. Bank robberies, too, were virtually unheard of. One estimate places the number at about a dozen for the entire frontier period. Then you have the low homicide rates. The highest annual body count Tombstone ever experienced? 5. From 1870 to 1885, Dodge City and Wichita had murder rates of 0.6 per year. However you cut it, daily cowboy life was nowhere near as violent as we've been led to think. 2. Outlaws. Billy the Kid, Wild Bill Hickok, Jesse James, these names defined the Wild West. These men were so badass that their names still conjure images of macho men striking matches off their stubble, instead of lying egomaniacs with girly voices. Yep, turns out not all of them were as tough as they said. When Buffalo Bill started his Wild West touring plays, Wild Bill joined only to get fired for sounding like a girl. Still, that's probably how he got his moniker, killing people who trash-talked his sissy lisp, right? Not exactly. The whole Bill part was a reference to his gravity-defying monster nose, as in it stood for Duck Bill. Other outlaws suffered similar manliness deficits. Jesse James was so vain that he left press releases at the scene of his robberies telling everyone how awesome he was. But the king of talking crap had to be Billy the Kid. In his lifetime, the Kid was known for killing over 20 people. In reality, it was more like 4. Basically, he was the Old West equivalent of that guy you always meet at parties who won't stop talking about the fights he's been in, only somehow sadder. 1. Cowboys. The cowboy is the absolute embodiment of everything frontier-related. A Stetson-rocking gunslinger with an absolute moral code, a tough exterior, and an even tougher interior, facing down the empty American wilderness with a steely gaze and a rugged jaw. Only they were nothing like that. See, the job of cowpuncher, as they would call themselves, was tough, dirty, working-class work. Most of these guys were surly illiterates who got drunk on the weekends, started fights, and spent a month or two in jail. None of them dressed like Clint Eastwood or John Wayne or any of the typical Hollywood cowboys. They wore practical clothes for getting mucked up in, and mostly looked like homeless people. Far from being moral, they were known to be obnoxious, and most of them had a terminal case of STD. Oh, and things had a tendency to get pretty broke back. In 1949, a study of rural sexuality concluded that there was a, quote, fair amount of sexual contact among the older males in rural western areas, while old poems from the frontier era are full of references to men being super gay for one another. So Butch and Sundance's epic bromance may have just been, a standard epic romance.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more elite facts.
He makes pretty good money.
Trapping.